Last summer, some of my friends and I spent a Sunday afternoon trying to push start my car because it had run out of battery and we had wanted to go for a little drive together. It took much longer than I thought it would, and I felt very bad asking my friends to help me with this initially. But in the end, it turned out to be a really good afternoon. Like, we had a lot of fun that afternoon, probably more fun than I've had with friends in quite a long time. There was something just very uplifting about it somehow, and I think the rest of them felt it as well. They told me. Maybe the fact that we enjoyed it so much will sound weird to you, or maybe it won't. But I was thinking about it recently when I was reading a book called Tribe about the way that humans have evolved, mostly to live in tribes, not to live in the modern society where we all have our own little units that we live in and don't have that much interaction with the outer community. And for most of the human evolutionary history, we lived in these tribes where I think our days would have been filled with activities like pushing my car to get it started. Although obviously they would be much more high stakes and much more difficult, and not as outwardly fun. I think the feeling of cohesion and the feeling of purpose that we all felt that day is probably something that was much more common in our tribal ancestors. The book Tribe mostly focuses on this communal aspect of the way that humans feel good interacting with other humans and other people that we like, obviously. Other people who we feel like are in our tribe. It feels really good to spend time with them. But to me, that's just one part of it. The other part of it is the feeling of necessity, which the book also touches on. But I think these are both very important aspects of our evolutionary history that are lacking in the modern world. And recently, in recent years, I've been very reluctant to criticize the sort of modernity and industrialization. I've been very pro modern life and technology and the sort of wonderful standard of living that we all enjoy. And it's only very recently that I've started to question that and wonder if there's something we're missing out on that's causing widespread misery. Despite the fact that we enjoy a lot of comforts such as medicine that stops us from dying from simple infections, and hygiene that means that we don't have to dig a hole in the ground to go to the toilet. We enjoy a lot of really basic technology and sort of just modern life that is hugely beneficial to us and our standard of living. And yet I think there's a lot of misery around. You've got to question why there is so much suicide, so much obesity, so much depression and anxiety, so much just nihilism, I think, so much anger. And I feel a little bit like a hippie just saying all this, but I do wonder if it's, like the guy who wrote the book Tribe said, whether it is the way that we're living is just not suited to our psychology. So many people in the modern world have jobs that don't really matter, or more importantly, they don't feel like they matter. People just go to work to get their wages, right? They just go to work so that they can live, and the actual things that they spend most of their day doing don't feel important, and they don't feel even difficult, especially. Although they're tiring, they don't feel challenging in the way that my job is, which I'm lucky enough to have a great job where I'm able to express my creativity and there's a lot of variety in it, and it actually does feel important. But I'm extremely lucky in that regard, and there's a lot of people who don't get that kind of career. They spend their whole lives doing these dead-end jobs that they can't really get behind, they can't be enthusiastic about. And what's more, we spend a lot of time alone in the way that we wouldn't have, tribal ancestors wouldn't have spent so much time just by themselves. They to be part of the group was essential to survival, so they would have spent almost their entire day 24/7 in the presence of other people, maybe even in the arm's reach of other people. These days it's only very poor people in the modern world who live with their grandparents and with lots of children in the same house, or with their cousins. That's living. The idea of having 10 people living in a 2-bedroom house is absolutely abhorrent to most sort of wealthy people, and we just, if you can afford it, people put all of their children in different bedrooms. That's considered the best standard of living for your family, and there's certainly some attraction to it. It's certainly you drive each other less crazy when you live that way, giving each other plenty of space, but it's just not. It's rather peculiar from an evolutionary standpoint, and yet people don't appear to mind it. Right? They don't complain about that, or maybe they do sometimes, but it's not seen widely as the cause of, as a cause for suicide or for depression or anxiety. And maybe it's not very scientific to link all of these things, but the more I was thinking about it, the more I really did start to see that there is something wrong with the way we're living, and I would hate to suggest any solutions for that, or especially any solutions that would be implemented by, broadly by the government. But I think there's something lacking from our modern lives that is making a lot of people very unhappy, or maybe unhappy isn't the right word. Maybe just feeling useless, feeling worthless, feeling lonely. I can't help feeling like we could be healthier mentally. I don't want to say happier because I don't think that's quite the right word. We could have less psychological disorders. We could have less feeling of purposelessness, but I don't know how, and I don't know what that would look like. It seems like the easiest way of making people feel this feeling of community and feeling of purpose is to put the whole community in peril, such as London was during the Blitz, which is something that the guy writes about in Tribe, is the way that people who are being threatened by war, being threatened by natural disasters, or just directly after a natural disaster, when communities are threatened communally, it brings the people together and gives them a sense of purpose. But it's hard to do that without the fear of death, right? It seems to be the fear of danger that forces people together in this way. And I would never suggest that we should be enforcing that fear onto people in order to sort of manipulate them into somehow feeling happier. That seems completely backwards. I just don't know what we could possibly do, and yet when I started to think about this, I got really excited about the idea of making a video about it, because it seemed just like a really important realization to me, the idea that the human psychology needs this sort of communal aspect of kinship, the idea that we should be closer to our fellow human beings than we are, and not just our families, but just people who live near us. And alongside that, the realization that there's such a feeling of worthlessness, I think, to modern life, because there is no danger. People don't get the opportunity to be brave. They don't get the opportunity to survive. We watch all of this fiction about bad things happening, right? Pretty much all of our movies and books are about, something is at stake, right? There's a conflict going on, and the people involved in the story need to overcome this conflict. And we keep consuming these stories about stakes and resolution, and I don't know about other people, but there's part of me that envies characters who get into trouble, people who get into danger. There's part of me that envies the meaning their lives must have. People who survive a zombie apocalypse, or in shows like The Walking Dead, or in pretty much any zombie film, you can imagine the devastation of finding out that almost everybody is dead, and yet the collapse of civilization would also be probably a great opportunity to find out the best aspects of yourself, to prove yourself as an adult, as a mature human being who's brave and strong. There's a great episode of Rick and Morty that ends with the main family. They get stuck in a sort of post-apocalyptic situation, and before any of the trouble started, the parents were thinking of getting divorced, and the daughter wanted to leave, and she was really just classic grumpy teenage daughter. None of them were getting along, and then as soon as the apocalypse breaks out and they're the only ones who have survived, the dad like grows really really strong, and you just see this one little scene of the parents and the daughter like just having a cool time like around a like a garbage fire while the whole world is just completely dissolved around them. They've managed to find happiness as a family together over this sort of shared trauma, and the fact that they're fighting for their survival. I think, well, this is what I read into it. It makes life feel like it matters. When you have to fight every day to survive, I bet that gives you a great appreciation for life. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And I would never want to impose that on anyone to, like Tyler Durden in Fight Club, who threatens that. What is the guy who wants to be a vet? Like he wants to be a veterinarian. They beat him up outside the bar so that he will pursue a better life, having had a scrape with death. That's definitely not a moral thing to do to someone, even though maybe that guy did have a better life after that. I would never suggest that as a solution. I mean, Fight Club's another example of that, right? Even though it is just fiction, and so is Rick and Morty, obviously, but there's something that sort of rings true about it, right? The guys in Fight Club, these young men, they abandon their comfy IKEA browsing lifestyles and office life to move into this disgusting house with other men. I don't know how to describe it. If you've seen Fight Club, you know what I'm talking about, but it seems completely believable that there would be quite a lot of young people who would volunteer for that kind of existence, because it's just preferable to the mundanity of modern life and the comfort of it. It's not ideal, right? Maybe it's impossible to have both comfort and safety while also having adventure and purpose, right? Maybe that's just two things that you have to balance. Maybe there is no way to square that circle. I don't know. Anyway, I'm sorry it's been a while since my last video. There's been some stuff going on that I won't go into. As always, please leave your comments on whatever I've said. If you can figure out what I was trying to say, then please let me know. Have a great day, and I might see you again soon, or maybe I won't. That'll be interesting to find out, won't it? See ya.